Hello everyone, welcome to the Electronics for You YouTube channel. And today joining us is Dave Doherty, CEO of DigiKey. Welcome Dave, thanks for joining us.
Dylan, it's a pleasure to be here with you today.
And it's wonderful to meet you in Bangalore at the DigiKey India office, no longer a GCC, right?
Absolutely, it's a very special day two for us here today.
Yeah.
And we couldn't be happier with the team, with the surrounding, with the entire event.
Congratulations. And it's a big milestone for DigiKey, but also for the Indian engineering community. For you to, it kind of signifies a bigger investment, a bigger focus for DigiKey in India, right?
No, there is no doubt. Our commitment to India is on many fronts. The talent here, DigiKey continues to grow, and one of the emphasis is how do you tap into talent globally? And there is no high-tech city like Bengaluru. We are excited. We have had a presence now for 3 years. But also, as you indicate, the India market is very exciting with the number of engineers. And so we also wanted to make sure we had an anchor point from which to serve the market.
All right. Before we dive in, we have a lot of questions on that front. But I think you've kind of earned a hat trick of congratulations because you won 2 recognitions over the last couple of weeks, the Outstanding Professional Achievement from WPI and Spirit of Excellence from We United. So congratulations thrice, and I don't know if you watch cricket for the hat-trick thing, but how do milestones like these resonate with you personally and with DigiKey's global?
Yeah, I think when you start to get recognition awards, it's just a sign you're getting old. And maybe some people telling you it's time to move on, but honestly, I'm flattered. They are for very different reasons. Worcester Polytech is a very small but very well-known engineering school that I'm very proud to have been at many years ago. But even more so, women electronics. In our industry, electronics industry, there is not enough diversity, whether it is gender, ethnic, etc. And in the US, particularly where we are, we have a tremendous opportunity with a very number of talented female leaders that we want to make sure that the career does not plateau prematurely. But how do we continue to help that talent grow and develop? It's really about helping all people try to reach their full potential.
Okay, all right. And I think you've been with helping that association since a long time, right? I mentioned a lot of things that they've talked about how DigiKey is being inclusive and helping the different segments. To set context for the India market aspect, how does India currently sit in terms of contributing to the global market?
Yeah, India, I think, is still in its earliest stages, but the future is extremely encouraging. For DigiKey, it is one of the top 10 countries which we ship to, and so that is important from a revenue perspective, but much more important to us, India is the number 2 country for traffic to our website.
Okay.
So that signal is that there are hungry, eager engineers that want to learn and they want to build, and those are 2 things that excite us.
Okay. Top 10 globally, and so what would be the number in Asia?
In Asia, India is our second largest market.
Okay.
There's a little market nearby called China, but I'll tell you, it is growing very quickly. And from a traffic perspective, it is number 1. So even more inquiries coming into DigiKey, more people visiting DigiKey in India than in China or any place else in Asia.
That's pretty good, and that's a pretty new insight. Are there any unique market opportunities that you see in India, or are there any trends in the Indian traffic that kind of stand out?
Yeah, we often get asked about trends or vertical segments, and at DigiKey, we will ship, if not this year, clearly by next year, in 2025 alone, to 1 million different customers.
Okay.
And so I would say we service that long tail. My observations in India, and again, I hope to learn as much from you as I could possibly share, is that there are many similar trends. Technology is involved in everything in our world, from energy to healthcare to transportation to telecom. So I think there are very similar drivers of the growth in India. When I travel, I see people on their smartphones using technology in a very similar way, regardless of where I am on the planet. So in some ways, this technology has been very unifying.
Yeah, and I think we've also started seeing, to a small extent though, that there are a lot of local variants of consumer devices that are being designed now. Do you see what would you say are the top 3 market segments, for example, that is seeing a lot of traction?
I think for DigiKey, that we've always kind of called industrial, and that is a very broad segment, as is the largest segmentation So a company like DigiKey, clearly if you looked at the macroeconomics, people would say, oh, the hyperscalers and AI. But when there is 5 or 6 customers dominating a segment, we will of course support them in engineering and NPI, but not so much in production. Industrial encompasses so many different areas of innovation. I would say that area in particular. In healthcare, home diagnostics, we used to, when I was young, have to travel to a large facility in a major city to be treated. Now we have things that we can wear on our watch or on our rings, and I think we will see more and more of that so we can diagnose our own health. It is ironic to me that in my vehicle, I have more diagnostics about the vehicle than I know about myself. And I think that will drastically change in the upcoming years.
Yeah. Are there any trends from the other side, which is, let's say, trends that are moderate now, but maybe you're seeing early signs or leading signs that they might scale up in the future?
Yeah, I think when I listen to your question about trends into the future, I think about AI, and I think about, though, as a society, we tend to overhype technology in the early years. I think Bill Gates had a quote that said, we overestimate in the first 2 years and underestimate the impact of technology over the corresponding decade. We used to always look at the Internet of Things, IoT, and we got tired of hearing it, but now we see the impact of the connectivity, and it is here. I think AI, I mentioned the hyperscalers is more the domain of a few big players, but attaching AI to the edge and having devices connected to AI, I think that will continue to proliferate and offer that wide, broad customer base. And there will be engineers very innovative in India and elsewhere that want to be able to attach technology to these capabilities.
Yeah. IoT has kind of become technology itself, right? It's as broad and as kind of ingrained into everything, and probably AI is going to become a layer on top of that. For DigiKey's presence in India, so this transition from GCC to DigiKey India, the office, could you give us an overview of how it was earlier, the team structure and mandate at the time?
Sure. You'd almost have to go back, and I don't want to bore you with the history, but DigiKey's roots are in a very small rural community in northwest Minnesota. There's only a couple thousand people in our town, but our owner was an engineer. He was a hobbyist, and he built some products, but soon realized the benefit was being able to supply small quantities of different parts for engineers to build things. And so that has been our root and our history. And so we see that need is not just in our hometown of rural Minnesota, or not just in the United States, but across the globe. And we're seeing the same phenomena, that there are many students interested in STEM, and they want to play. The platforms today, the development kits, the starter kits are very intriguing to youths, and then they want to pursue a career. So we look for that type of ecosystem to exist, and clearly it is here in India. And so how do we serve that? We look for ways to look and feel local. And that means being able to share information in local language, local currency. And I think there are many unifying factors of what people look for, but then there's also some differentiation between countries in culture and values, and how we try to portray that information to our folks in different places.
The bit you mentioned about community just reminded me of the DigiBucks, is it?
Yeah.
That's a really good thing to kind of give back to the community, to all the other segments in the town that you're in. That's pretty nice.
It's I don't know how much your readers understand, but in DigiKey, it is very unusual nowadays in that 50% of the labor force, so of all the people that work in our county, work at DigiKey. Okay. So we have many relatives, relationships. We could be brothers or cousins or uncles or aunts, and so that bonds us all together. It is the community that made DigiKey successful early on, prior to this expansion globally, and we want to give back. So as you mentioned, DigiBucks are like chamber bucks in the sense that we give them to team members at different times of the year, but they invest them in the community so that they can buy goods and services in virtually all the stores in the area except DigiBucks. So it is one of those little nuances, those special things that we try to do to stay connected to the community.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Would it be possible to share about the scale of investment and any focus areas that you would have for DigiKey India in the first year?
Yeah, again, two different elements. So let me talk more about serving the end market.
Okay.
India, for all its attractiveness, there's a little bit of bureaucracy in this country that we are trying to navigate. And so as we continue to evolve, one of the critical areas is things like importation. How do you bring product in? You know, our model is to bring all the product into one location. Now, it just happens to be where our owner was born, in this very rural area of Minnesota. Frankly, if we started today, I don't know if we would have picked that spot, but it was less important that it was where it is than what it is. So in one location, we can offer the world's largest selection of product because we can aggregate the demand in India, the demand in China, the demand in Germany, the demand in the United States to justify financially holding so much inventory. If we had local or regional warehouses, we would only be able to offer a partial offering because our manufacturers have minimum order quantities where it just does not become financially viable to have 2.5 million products in each of the regions. So if we can get it in one location, we can service it from there. But if I'm in another country and I buy, I do not want to have separate paperwork, separate expense for importation. So we have to make that transparent. So DigiKey is working on that directly, and then we also have partners like Aquatronics, where we have a logistics provider to make it easier. Large customers, of course, can work with us pretty easily, multinational companies, but we want the smallest of companies or individuals to also be able to connect with us for their business needs.
All right. And do you see any change that we can expect in the, let's say, the delivery timelines or the logistical flows with this being enabled?
I think so. And the delivery is highly dependent on our carriers. We are fortunate the way we are set up, and I encourage and invite you to come visit us to see this, but the major carriers, whether it's DHL or FedEx or UPS, they reside in our building. And so product that is coming down the line is pre-sorted, whether it's going next day domestic in the US or it is going overnight into India. And so they try to get a jump on it right away. And we connect into their network. Now, all of these carriers are working diligently to streamline for us delivery cycles to Europe and to Asia. And then I think your question is also, can we reduce the time going through customs? And the more we build a reputation and credibility with customs, the easier it is. And so it is my hope that we can continue to shave hours and a day off of that delivery time. What our customers have told us, though, is for DigiKey, they view that our ability to translate, instead of having lead time, which can be weeks or months with suppliers, it becomes days for transit time. And so that is the biggest value proposition. If you need a product for a critical item that is malfunctioned, we are not so much that provider that will be able to get it to you. I am told now in India, I can buy food or other goods and get it within an hour, which is incredible. Unfortunately, that is not the case, but the case is the selection that you can receive within that short window of transit.
All right. When you mentioned about the warehouse, the system where you have DHL and FedEx and everybody in, so that also kind of, I guess, gives you a kind of early insight into the automation aspects and industrial automation aspects and warehousing, right? Yeah.
It does. Some of our suppliers have visited our warehouse and seen many of their products in our warehouse. There's some pictures on the wall. There are many big buildings. Our suppliers have big factories, et cetera. What's different at DigiKey is think about that whole warehouse is optimized to break down supplier pack quantities. We do not sell many things in a full reel or a full case. We break it down to one part or 1,317 parts, whatever the customer is looking for. They want to minimize the amount of inventory they carry. And many of our customers are building many different things, so they have a difficulty forecasting, so they can come to us with exact quantities of products and receive that kitted bill of material all in one shipment.
All right. And I think that also gives you kind of a lot of access to data in terms of actual purchasing behavior on one side and the traffic behavior. So from this vantage point, are there any dramatic shifts you've seen in how engineers and OEMs or design teams source components, tools, or services today?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, because historically, the way you forecast your future buys is you look in the rearview mirror and see what have customers bought yesterday. Technology is changing so quickly that we are looking at things like what parts are they visiting on our website early in their design cycle. We are getting information from our suppliers. What sites are they visiting on their website? we are always on a race to try to keep up with the interest of the engineers. And we want to make sure that when their interests exist, that we have product to serve that. So we continually are now looking for new signals to look at which products should we have in stock and make sure that the availability is there to meet their demand.
Okay. And in addition to this, any FAE enablement or smart recommendations to existing users, is that also something in the pipeline? Or
you bring up a great point. This is way more than just selling parts. It's the engineer's requirements. The part is the end product of a lot of research and a lot of design effort.
Yeah.
So I think what I've seen is we are different than an Amazon or Baidu or just a commodity e-commerce site. So more and more you will see where the traffic comes to our site is in research. They want to understand the environment that the part works in. Certainly the data sheet, the part detail page. Is there any reference designs? What product has naturally been coupled to that part? Anything that can help accelerate their insight into making the design functional. Is there a starter kit? Is there a dev board? Is there a schematic symbol or footprint that they can import into their EDA tool? So all of this continues to expand, and we work with our suppliers to try to put all that information and normalize that data in a consistent way that across 3,000 suppliers, they can find access to what they need.
Yeah. And I think our editorial team has also seen this bit where if they've shortlisted a component and then later it goes out of stock, but your website recommends parametric substitutes. So it's very easy for them to find the alternative without having to go back and start that search and research process again.
Easy for them, not the easiest for us to service. And that is one of the areas that we focus on here in India, is creating a very accurate and a very robust information database. And we are finding that I was with dinner with our team last night, and they were surprised, although I've already heard it, that many of our suppliers tell us that they search our site regarding their own components because they find it easier to navigate than their own website. So that is both an honor, but also a responsibility that we take very seriously. Engineers today, due to some of the supply chain disruptions, want to make sure that they're developing cutting-edge technology, but also technology that's going to be available. Does it have alternate sources? Are there other similar parts? So that if the need is created, they have the ability to find some flexibility to keep their designs in production. There is so many challenges around just trying to search a site. Also, in addition to what you mentioned, testing under the same load conditions. If you're looking for speed or power consumption, it matters what frequency are you at, or how are you driving the chip. So not only do we show the parametrics, we try to show them under similar load conditions so they can really get an apples to apples comparison. You're right, that is very complex for the engines today, but I don't doubt at some point in the future, as fast as we are evolving, we will look for ways to implement that on our own website to help make search faster. For instance, if I'm looking for a certain output range, today we may have many parts and the user would have to select each of those individually. We're now putting in some widgets that says something simple like I'm looking for an output range between 5 and 9 volts, and it will automatically select all of those parts versus the user having to individually select those. So I think what you will see most impactful is many small changes that each change in and of itself does not look so great, but when you look back, kind of like watching your children grow, after 6 months or a year or 2 years, you will see great changes and enhancements.
All right. With all this digital transformation, for lack of a better word, happening, how do you see the contribution from channel partners and distributors plugging into it?
Yeah, I think as you get older, you have some perspective, and there is an old saying that the more things change, the more they stay the same. And so as I was thinking about this interview, I don't think it's the what that has changed so much. Time to market, innovation, differentiated products, but it's the how that continues to change, how they get their information. I thought about when, before my time, there were no calculators, no slide rules. People calculated with a pen and paper. Then there was a slide rule. Then there was a calculator. Then there was an Excel spreadsheet. Now it's very easy to get information. Similar in our journey, people used to have to deliver data books. They used to have to do their own research. Now the technology is making more of that information at the engineer's hands so that they can be more strategic in their own thinking and have a lot of this information prepackaged for them.
All right. And So we've seen some really small distributors, and then really small local ones, maybe localized shops, for example.
Sure.
And I think one of the concerns that a lot of community members have is when they source from them, how do they make sure the components are not counterfeit or have some sort of other problem? So how are things evolving with combating counterfeit components as a whole?
Yeah, counterfeiting is probably the one thing that keeps us all awake at night. When you start talking about space or aerospace or medical, I would not want to be on a plane or have a satellite or have something implanted in me that was not authentic. So we take that very seriously. We are part of an industry association that really the backbone of our mission is to make sure that we support authorized distribution. For DigiKey, that is easy. We do not, sometimes it may look attractive to purchase excess components, even from sources that look legitimate. We do none of that. Every product that comes onto the DigiKey shelf is directly from the manufacturer. We think that authenticity is so critical. It is our reputation. When we sell products, when an engineer buys them from DigiKey, we want them to know that it came directly from the manufacturer. And anything that we can do to continue to promote that is critical.
All right. And from the academic perspective, right? So how important is it, and what's being done to enable academic programs?
Yeah, students are the lifeblood for all of us, right? It's you and I have both been in this industry for a long time, and we hope many more continue to join it. So we believe when you think of the lifetime of a customer, it starts in the very early ages. We work with programs like First Robotics that is now global to put some robotics or technology in students' hand. We support STEM. We believe there are many challenges in this world, and it will not be solved by politicians. It'll be solved by scientists and by engineers. So we feel a stewardship or a duty to do that. It is also frankly a good business practice to introduce people to your brand at an early age, and however you can do that so they become familiar. You mentioned earlier, if you are familiar navigating a website and how to find the information, you're more likely to go back there.
Yeah.
So we engage with academics, we engage with hobbyists. There are many hobbyists that are new into electronics, and many engineering professionals that on the side, they become professional hobbyists looking to produce products on their own.
Yeah.
And we look to support that entire ecosystem.
All right. Any plans or any programs in the pipeline for India?
Absolutely. We have learned in our backyard, and so we have people that are dedicated to the academia environment. We have sponsors at different at schools that promote technology to sponsor the DigiKey tools and awareness and take their feedback. And so that group will look to continue to expand that internationally at universities and schools that lend themselves to education around engineering.
All right. And another overlying kind of trend in India from both the academic side as well as the mainstream side is the semiconductor ecosystem, and that's gaining a lot of momentum. How does DigiKey see a potential role here? So for fabs who design teams and fabs for both sides, so it could either be supporting design access or maybe helping smaller manufacturers get their product out to let's say the global market.
Sure.
Maybe they might be currently really small and just focused on the engineering team. They may not have the sales, marketing, or the bandwidth or the resources to be a global market enabler. So those things, and maybe in terms of technical knowledge.
Great. Thank you for helping me focus in on that. I would say a couple of things come to mind. Semiconductors, especially the advanced semiconductors, have a reputation for complexity, right? So in addition to the information we talked about, we encourage our suppliers, and oftentimes it might be a third party that is building some sort of development environment to use that part. When accelerometers first became available, it was very difficult to know, what do I do with this chip, until it was in an environment where people could start to test and use it, and maybe even take aspects of that design into their production environment. So whenever we deal with advanced technology, we look to be able to complement that with a supporting environment.
Okay.
Now, to your point, we are also selling more and more integrated products. I think of our business like Legos. Familiar with Legos?
That was one of my follow-up questions for today.
Well, I beat you to it because
Yeah.
when I think of Legos, when I was young, there was a small set of that I could choose from to build things. Now with my grandchildren, it is very complex. The breadth of offering, and some of them are already integrated. I do not have to build some of the components. They are already pre-built. Very much like DigiKey. It started with a small number of standard products. Now this long tail has become very customized in some aspects. And these integrated products look like some of those Lego introductions. So not to diminish the complexity of our world, but to try to simplify an analogy, I would say we are the Legos of the electronic component industry.
Yeah. Any success stories of firms that have maybe partnered with DigiKey and gotten international exposure, or you've been able to kind of catalyze it for them?
You bet. Some of the ones that I will give are some I'm familiar with that are a little older, and they originated in some other geographies. And I am excited when I leave tomorrow to have some stories that I can share with you from India. But when I think of them, some that come to mind is there's 2 U.S. companies that started as a customer that are now very key suppliers to us. And they are SparkFun and Adafruit. Okay. Both of those are, if you're familiar with either or both of those brands, so like yourself, they have a mission to serve new engineers and to simplify technology and to build development environments. And so they help us reach a wide range of new customers. We're delighted with the reputation and the association with both of them. Okay. I hope to identify that our teams can identify who are the up-and-coming Adafruits or SparkFun of India, because this is an inclusive environment. We can't have enough people that are looking for solutions. And so now we offer some of their breakout boards or their ecosystems as sellable products. So they have gone from customer to a hybrid of customer and supplier to DigiKey. All right. Similar with test and measurement or industrial control products. Okay. You mentioned earlier some that we are using in our warehouse, sensors, et cetera, for some of the robotic controls. We are now selling them as finished goods, which are really nothing more than that complex Lego assembly that was pre-built by this customer. Yeah.
All right. This kind of reminded me, what's the strategic intent about the white label products that you have on DigiKey website?
I'm so glad you brought up white label, because there is many companies that are using white label as a way to maybe separate from their suppliers or to cannibalize or to create additional margin by cutting out the middleman. That is not the case for DigiKey at all. I think through our history of 50 plus years, we look for ways to connect with customers. So we have a fairly finite but growing offering we call DigiKey Standard. Now these are different types of tools our engineers would be using in their environment, crimpers, et cetera. Now we source the highest of quality from our own suppliers, and they have been very excited to create some branded product that has the DigiKey red that customers are familiar with. And so we are promoting our supplier's brand with our brand. And we are finding that customers enjoy being part of this community. I brought with me this DigiKey ruler, and at first it was a fun product. Our engineers wanted to have some fun by offering a standard ruler, but had different things like gauge sizes or conversions, etc. And so we sent it out really as a promotion, and lo and behold, many customers said, send me more. We started putting on our website for just a small amount to cover the cost, and we are selling a number of these rulers to customers. But what's important is we want them to have DigiKey first of mind. So whether it is a ruler or whether it is tools, we want to make that long-lasting connection to customers. Okay. We want to be there to service them and to help them. At DigiKey, we are very humble. We know that we are not changing the world, our customers are. But we take great pride in enabling that innovation through the services and the products that we can provide.
All right. And we're seeing rapid growth in online electronic small or online marketplaces. So does the data show them as complementary, or for example, does it bring in, like we mentioned earlier, does it bring in more localized remote or rural regions, kind of connects them and kind of teaches them that now instead of going to a local shop and then hoping to get known counterfeit genuine components, now they can also start sourcing it online?
Yeah, no doubt. I think e-commerce has been around for a while. I don't know that many people know that DigiKey's first website was in 1996. So being in a remote region, we realized that we had to look for ways to reach our neighbors and reach the world. So that served us well. But the ability to source trusted small quantities. And we are seeing the world for a while was going for scale and high volume. Now the world is converted, and there are ways to very cost effectively manufacture in smaller batch sizes, micro manufacturing, where they want more variations of product. And that's what serves a company like DigiKey well when they are high mix, low volume versus, there was Henry Ford, an automobile manufacturer in the US, once said in the early 1900s, you can have whatever color you want as long as it's black. And that is just the opposite today.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dave, for the time you've taken. And
Dylan, it's been a pleasure, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank your organization. It is, again, I think we have similar missions, and so let us know how we can support you, because we have the same end goal to enable these amazing group of young engineers, engineers of all age, to make the world a better place for you and I.
all right, thank you so much.
All right, take care.
To work with you, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you.